year at Barton Academy, students, faculty, and staff depart the campus for a 2-week winter break. But there are always an unfortunate few who have nowhere to go for the holidays. They're known as the holdovers.
Congratulations
Thank
on
you.
this. You know, I know you've worked with him before, Alexander, and he says you're one of the best actors around.
Well.
You can make even bad dialogue sound
He's
great.
never given me bad dialogue, so I don't know what he's talking about.
That was my question. Have you ever had to make bad dialogue
I've heard him
sound
say
good?
that, and I'm like, you've never actually given me bad dialogue. I'm like, no. And his writing, and this is a different guy who wrote this, David Hemmingson. And in both cases, it's like, no, actually, the dialogue is helping my bad acting. So his dialogue just, you don't need to do a whole hell of a lot. You just got to stay out of the way of it.
I had you got stuck with babysitting duty this year. How'd you manage that?
Oh, I don't know. I suppose I failed someone who richly deserved it.
One of the things I loved about this movie, you keep waiting for something major to take place. It is, I don't want to say a slow burn, but it's life.
Yes.
It doesn't
It
necessarily...
unfolds like life.
Yes.
Yeah.
In very subtle ways, but I
Yes.
think we're so conditioned to expect that
An
it's
explosion at some
Yes,
point, like a
it's
literal explosion. Yeah.
Exactly. How difficult is it, or is that kind of the challenge and the fun of it, to play these characters that make subtle changes?
That's the fun of it. I mean, that's the challenge of it, and that's the difficulty of it. But again, it's all in the writing. It really is, and his direction too, and the other actors. But that's the beauty of something like this. You know, no explosions, but things really change. So that's hard to do.
However, and I asked Dominic about this, you are no Tom Cruise when it comes to running. but he said that was a
I'm no good with
highlight.
the parkour. I'm not able to do that.
You don't have that Tom Cruise.
No,
run.
I mean, listen, maybe it was acting that I was making it look like that. No, I'm not Tom Cruise when it comes to running now. And that's funny because that's like the action sequence in this movie.
gets
is
no
those
better.
two guys chasing each other, which is very funny. And then boom, vaulting over that thing. That's the action sequence in this.
You know, this is all about a Barton man. Barton men don't lie.
Yeah.
They don't do a lot of other things as well. What are Paul Giamatti's don'ts?
Oh, wow.
What are your don'ts?
I don't lie. I'm bad at lying. So it's like I won't do that. So I don't do that. I don't eat sugar. I try not to eat too much sugar.
Good for you.
Yep, and those might be my two things. I don't lie and I don't eat sugar.
Do you miss it, though? Not the lying, but
Not
the sugar?
so much, actually. No, I feel like I get my satisfaction from fruit. I can't believe I'm having this conversation. But yes, yeah, I don't miss it.
History is not simply the study of the past, it is an explanation of the present.
I love the line, you know, history is not necessarily a study of the past, it's an explanation of the present.
Yes.
And I'm curious, is there something in your past that where you are now in life is kind of helping explain a lot?
Holy cow. I wonder actually that I went to a school like this, and in some ways I look at it and I go, yeah, maybe this explains a lot. I had to deal with guys like this and stuff like that. That's interesting. I think so. It makes me look at my experience at that school differently, you know, and see these teachers in with a more human dimension than I probably gave them before.
And that's actually one of the I love the fact that everyone has a teacher that no one likes.
Yeah.
But spend 2 weeks with them.
Right, and you're going to get to know them better, and you're going to see something, you're going to see more, you're missing stuff about them. Yeah.
I am older than Dominic.
Okay.
The blue books with the grades, I very much remember. Have you ever gotten a grade or maybe a review that was just not deserved? These guys all get the test back from your character. Like, wait, what?
You can never get a review that's good enough. Even the good review, you're like, but wait a minute. You know what I mean? The reviews are never good enough. So it's like, but did I ever get grades? I don't know. I think I probably always deserved the grades I got. But reviews, they're never good enough.
You got to be pleased with the ones you're getting for
Yes,
this.
I am.
Okay, I hope so.
I am.
Hey, so you got kicked out of Harvard for cheating?
You could fool a lot of people with the fact that this is your acting debut. technically. How do you make it so effortless?
I mean, I guess I just didn't think about it, you know? I mean, maybe that was a good thing. I didn't know anything, so I didn't have a lot to think about. It was just kind of going in as this fresh slate and trusting myself, you know? That was really, I had to get to a point where I could trust myself in this environment with these giants and be successful. Everybody was great, too. Everybody I worked with just made it easy for me.
I read that you talked about how much you could identify with Angus, and I'm curious, in addition to going to a prestigious school, what did you share in common the most with him? Or what do you share in common the most?
I think when reading the script initially, it was the fact that he's just this unfinished product in a way, you know, and I felt being in this, you know, elite boarding school environment, you find that a lot of these kids are really have their whole lives planned out ahead of them, and this is what they're going to do, this is where they're going to go to college, all of this stuff. And I found, my experience at school, I just didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't even think I wanted to act until my senior year of high school. It was my senior year I decided to apply to acting schools, so I was still just figuring it out, So, and same goes for Angus. He's really just all of them figuring it out.
I'm curious. I love, he hands the grades back, and how I'm older than you, so I could relate to the books that come back with the grades on
Right,
them.
yeah.
It's not all electronic.
Yeah.
Have you ever received a grade or a review that made no sense to you and was unjust?
Yes, yeah. I think about my pre-calculus class. I won't name names.
Okay.
But yeah, this was definitely an unjust class, and I'm sure if my friends ever hear this, they'll laugh at that. But I actually stood up in that class. I was the one who emailed the teacher and said, we need to have a meeting about the grades. So,
Good for
maybe a little bit different than Angus. Maybe I cared a little bit more than Angus would have.
Yeah, but that's great that you did that, honestly. I think
Yeah.
that's a great story. What's it like to be chased around a school by Paul Giamatti? It's one thing to act opposite him, but to be chased by him.
Hilarious. I mean, just he's just funny. Like, I don't know if you remember his run in the movie, but it's just so...
It's not a Tom Cruise run, let's just say
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Love the guy, but he's
What
not
do you
Tom
mean?
Cruise.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
No. It was so fun, that scene in particular, and getting to do cartwheels and stuff. Watching a stunt double do flips, it was really cool, and he just brings so much. Even all of the movies he's done, him willing to be here for this new person and run around the hall with them to help make the scene look good is just speaks to what kind of a guy he is.
Well, you both play off each other so well. In the film, obviously, it's Barton. It's what's a Barton man?
Yeah.
Barton men don't lie.
Exactly.
What are Dominic's we don't do? What's on your don'ts list, you personally?
I'd say well, this kind of goes into don't lie, but don't cheat your friends, you know what I mean? And what I mean by that is don't be afraid to tell them the truth, Don't be afraid when they need to hear the truth, even though it'll hurt their feelings or something, and they might look at you differently or be mad at you. I feel that's an important thing to hold for the people that you care about.
What do they think of all this?
My friend.
Yeah,
well,
this is just crazy.
I have a really funny story, the quick story. My best friend, Trey Suter, who we went to Deerfield with, he was a really big fan of Billions, which obviously Paul. And I remember him calling me into his room one night junior year because he was really supportive of my acting in high school. And he's like, dude, if you ever got to act with this guy one day, that would be the coolest thing ever. And then he called me the other day crying on the phone. I just saw the movie, dude. Yeah, that was the coolest thing.
Stand up for the lady, you boor. Cretin.
You are all about stealing a scene, making an entrance. But in this film, what's so fantastic is it's quiet, it's stoic. How hard is that for someone
It's
like
definitely it's definitely a change in my personality for sure. But it was welcomed. I welcomed the challenge. I appreciated, and I think I now appreciate even more stillness, being articulate and clear with your words, taking your time. It was very interesting to be in that rhythm, I'll say. But yeah, you're right. It was very different for me. When you're grieving, your mind is going a mile a minute. And sometimes it's a loud roar, and sometimes it's just little whispers. Oh, remember when they used to do that? And that, so I think a lot of that silent stuff is because you're literally enraptured in thought and memories all the time, and it's overwhelming.
You can learn a lot from her, I feel like, when it comes to something like grief. And at the same time, as she's going through all of that, she's still there for others.
Well, and I think that speaks a lot to her, and also grief waits for no one, and life still, I hate to say it, but life does still go on, and in some instances that helps people process and move through grief. But yeah, she has a job to do, and also I want to believe that she really cares about people. Even in the crazy social, economic climate that this movie takes place, I think she finds comfort in them because something that they give her that she probably has never gotten before was time and space to be herself.